Hello, this is Daniel Posney, and this is Shifting Perspectives coming to you from Sedona. And today, the topic is something that is really creating a lot of excitement about talking about this. That's how it usually works here is a topic comes up and I start kind of diving into the consciousness of it, and then words start coming out and start getting some resolve and some higher perspective on it. So this is what's happening with this topic about apathy and laziness and lack of motivation, and all wrapped up into that is also lack of self-worth and sadness and depression and all those things. So let's dive into this. First, I want to tell you about something that we've still got going on in this month, September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th is a spiritual one-day retreat at our house at the Hummingbird House, and then two-day relationship retreat after that on the 23rd and 24th. If you go to thehummingbird.house.org, you'll find more information about that. The men's retreat in October is canceled due to lack of signups, but we'll see you next year. And so let's get right into this. So I've got lots of what really feels like some great information here. So, step number one to resolve apathy, laziness, lack of self worth, lack of motivation, that kind of thing. First, there needs to be some kind of discovery. So, what we normally do is we say, you got to get yourself out of it. You just got to do something. That just gets back into the same unhealthy processes that we're in this world. So, what really helps me and what's helped Valerie, my wife, is to kind of just settle and just allow yourself to prepare to go inward with what I would call radical self inquiry. Self inquiry is just kind of going inside, asking your own self questions, not your mind that wants to justify itself and validate itself, but why does it like to justify and validate itself? It's kind of that kind of thing. It's like you're getting answers from your mind and you go, but wait a minute. So it's that kind of thing. So it's more radical in its nature. So the first question is this apathy or this laziness or this lack of motivation. When did this start? What was the trigger for it? Was it a breakup that made you feel a dormant feeling that you felt in your childhood, like you're not worthy or not lovable or not, beautiful? Was it a diagnosis that made you look at your own mortality? Was it a loss of a job that wasn't really fulfilling you in the first place and made you question your own life purpose? So, but the thing is that all these things are really tough to go through and to look at. But going into this radical self inquiry is quite a remarkable journey to take. It's one that is not really for everyone. There's a lot of people that will stay in the apathy, and that's just how they want to play it out. And I could completely see that. I completely see how maybe one life that I've lived just want to just be apathetic and just go, I just need to be taken care of. And I don't want to dive into the world. So maybe that's possible. So there's no judgment around, at least in this video, there's no judgment around being apathetic or being lazy or having lack of motivation. I'm just here to kind of help you try to make sense of it and move through it if you'd like to. So then after that, the next step is enlightenment. And I'm not talking about the enlightenment that brings you into being a full-fledged guru, but I'm saying that we go through enlightenment all the time. And I get through it, almost every day. I get some kind of little form of enlightenment. It's like, oh wow, that's what that means, or wow, that this animal showed me something. Any of those things can be some form of enlightenment. So that's the second step. So the question is, what does it mean? This apathy, this laziness, this lack of motivation. What's in it? Where does it come from? So consider that at the root of your apathy and laziness and lack of motivation is a deep disappointment with the world. And that's something that I need to look at myself is that, I'm upset with this around me, but really, could I expand it and say that I'm really just kind of disappointed at the world? And for a while, that was the case. So that might be, what really needs to be looked at. But then that takes you right back to yourself and goes, wait a minute, if I'm not really disappointed with the world, then that has to mean that I'm kind of disappointed with myself. Okay, who's disappointed with who? My mind has these thoughts of disappointment and apathy and laziness that I should be doing something different and I should be feeling differently than I feel right now. So that's the problem right there, is that there's this false sense of identity with what the mind thinks about you. So that's really, if we're really going to go to the core of the problem, that's the basis of the problem. So we can talk about how to move through apathy and laziness, and I try and stay away from, like affirmations that will kind of get you motivated anyway. So that's not really how I roll. So you may feel a deep disappointment and hopelessness as you seem to be. That's the mind. So that's the thoughts and the beliefs. That's what you seem to be according to your mind. So just think about, what would life be like if you allowed yourself to be okay with the world as it is and focused on happiness, even though, and I'm not talking about looking at the world through rose colored glasses and not really seeing it as it is, just saying, wow, it's kind of messed up. And there's this, child abductions and stuff like that. And I don't agree with any of that. And it really hits my heart. And that's the way it is right now. And the best thing that I can do, the greatest impact on the world that I can do, is to shift inside, not to block everything out with some kind of spiritual bypass, but to really look at it and feel it, see if there's any emotions in me that could be healed and integrated that are being reflected from the world. So that's the kind of radical part of this. So in that comes this enlightenment, and you kind of go, wow, I feel better somehow. So if we want to go deeper, it goes back to that, what I just said about it. The core of the problem is your false sense of identity. You are not the apathetic, lazy, or lack of motivated one. You don't lack anything. There's this side thing going on. There's this egoic mind, the thoughts and the beliefs and the programs. Your egoic identity activates these programs from known conditions and memories. You are the witness to these feelings. So I always kind of turn to my side and think about that. I'm the witness of the feelings that are coming up. So I'm not the feelings. I'm not the thoughts about all these things. I'm the witness to those feelings. I know it's kind of a weird thing to look at for the first time, but you'll get used to it. So there's a spiritual teacher named Muji, and he's in this long line of spiritual teachers. And he says many spiritual and religious practices focus on uplifting the personal self. Yay, go, go, you can do it. Whereas self inquiry quickly exposes the person as limited and false, so that further time is not wasted on continuing a ghost story. One's attention can then rest joyfully and timelessly inside the natural heart self. So I want to go back to one thing that he said about quickly exposes the person as limited and false. And if you're like me, there's a little bit of a twinge of, what do you mean I'm limited and false? I've always been told that I'm great and an amazing person and all these things. But what he's referring to, I believe, is that any thought of yourself is false. So there's this identity of self that's been developed over time through the conditioning of the world and has developed you into this personality. Well, when you die, that personality is going to slowly erode away and you'll be left with yourself. So, what he's saying is that it exposes this before that death. It exposes what you and who you really are beyond this idea of yourself. So, that idea of itself, although it may be very courageous and powerful and motivated, it's still limited because it's limited to this egoic nature and what is perceived to be right and wrong and good and bad and all those different dualities. So I believe that's kind of what he's saying there. In the makeup of our being, we move in masculine and feminine energy. So there's an imbalance in this apathy and lack of motivation. there's just an imbalance in this masculine and feminine energy. So the masculine energy is that energy, a part of us that moves forward, takes responsibility, fixes stuff, invents things. It's like, I'm going to do this. And men and women both have these energies. The feminine energy is more that part of ourselves that's more coming back into ourselves and receiving, and the sensual, creative, expressive energy. So we're a beautiful mix of all that. So you could say that the lack of motivation is some imbalance in the masculine energy. And that all happens from society. It happens from being on our electronic devices too much. It happens from people telling us some negative things that just kind of wore us down, or someone has told us how to do something that's different than the way we want to do it, and it just keeps on wearing us down until finally we just go, screw it. I'm just tired of trying to do this. But it's in that there's an opportunity. So I want to talk about that. I remember when I lived in Santa Barbara, I was doing tours for a great tour company with this guy named Mark Hicks. And he had this tour company called Captain Jack's. And he would do kayaks and bicycles and wine and beer tours and um, everything. It was awesome. He just found all the great deals and stuff. And I started to think about being a tour guide, running a bus, and having doing like wine tours and stuff. And I thought, man, I'd be great at that. And so I went to go get my bus licensed, and I studied for it. I studied the bus and the raw rules and laws and all the stuff for this. And the guy was just he failed me, and I was like, man, this is a tough one. So I studied again. I really got into it. I studied the bus more, and he failed me again. I don't even know if I got to drive the bus, but he failed me on the exterior knowledge or something. And I was really kind of got upset with that. And I was like, man, I can't even pass a bus, a tour bus licensing. I mean, I got really apathetic, and I started getting depressed about that. But what if I followed that? What if I did pass? Maybe I wouldn't be here today. Maybe I'd still be doing that. And I'm sure I'd be a great tour bus driver and be an awesome experience. But I was kind of going over this way, and that was something that wasn't supposed to happen in that way. So these things that we get apathetic about and we just start getting sad about, um, it may possibly be that the thing that you're trying to make happen, that you wish was different than the way it is right now, is not supposed to be different. Big deep breath on that one. Okay, step 3 is a shift. So this is your opportunity for life transformation, not just making life a little bit better or making things go your way or that you get this promotion or something. This could be a real life transformation, that the way that you've been living your life in the past has been phase 1, that you just been kind of going blindly and just kind of reacting to the world, and you've done pretty well. You got your ups and downs, and then now you got this shit has hit the fan, and now it's really tough. But this is where this spiritual awakening and life transformation can happen. And this also can be on the heels of illness and death and accidents and breakups and divorce. All those things can be catalysts for what's happening here. And you can kind of look at my house burnt down, and I'm going through divorce and all these things. Like I went through a divorce, and my kids didn't really want to hang out with me, and I thought, I quit the job and stopped making all this money, and I just got really apathetic. But that's exactly what I needed. Looking back at it, I needed to break away from this, what they call like the golden handcuffs. I needed to break away from the way that life, even though life looks so beautiful, I needed to break away from that and start going down this other path. There's this quote that right now in this moment, I can't remember who it comes from, but it goes something like this. It is no measure of health to be successful in a profoundly sick society. It is no measure of health to be successful in a profoundly sick society. And to me, what that says is, that's great. You're successful out there in the world. What does that really mean? You know that the world is kind of sick. kind of distorted and a lot of weird things going on. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. Just say, okay, what does that really mean? So it's time to pull back and say, okay, what has my journey been, and where do I go from here? So find your peace with this feeling that you should be doing something or feeling differently. Find your peace with this feeling that you should be doing something or feeling differently than the way that you feel right now. You compare yourself to the others out there who look happy and productive, but you don't know what they come home to, what happens when the cameras are off and the lights are out. So stop trying to compare yourself in your life to what looks like these people are making all this money, or they're so beautiful and things. You don't really know all the answers. You don't know what's going on in my life. You don't know what's going on in your relatives even sometimes. So we're all going through stuff. So take that with a little bit of compassion. All right. Now we get to the practical or pragmatic part of this. One way out of being stuck in apathy and lack of motivation and what you might refer to as laziness, one way is to just completely go into it, just completely allow yourself to have those feelings. You're having these feelings and it's okay. But there's a thought from your mind to keep you in this apathetic way, and keep you in this um, lack of self-worth and victim consciousness, and yeah, you've got some real reason to be there, but your mind wants to keep you there. That's the problem. So it's okay to feel those feelings, because we live in a world that kind of um, embellishes on that and kind of distorts your ideas of yourself in such a way that causes you to kind of feel that way. It's completely normal, not normal, but the mind wants to keep you there, and that's not really what you're here for. So the way to come out of that, to kind of start sparking something, is to create something, anything. So this emotion that you're having or non-emotion that you're having is something, and from that something or nothing, no emotions, you can create from that. You can write a poem about that, or write a song about that, or paint about that, or sing about that, or dance your ass off about that. You have full permission to be angry about that too. That's being angry about that is also something that can motivate you out of the apathy. Allow yourself to be angry. And a lot of people that I've met that are being apathetic and lazy or not motivated don't really feel like they have the permission to be angry about anything, but their whole life has led up to this. They've taken care of everyone and they don't seem to get what they need, and so they start getting apathetic and in victim consciousness, where at some point in that, anger really would have served a good purpose. So more practical stuff: wear clothing that fits. I know that's kind of a weird thing that may not fit, but wearing clothing that fit, instead of wearing your baggy sweats and flip-flops, it just does something to you, and it allows you to feel your body. The other thing is move your body, even in a subtle way, rolling on the floor, stretching, yoga, qigong, tai chi, something, even some, hula. It's something that allows you to kind of connect your brain with your body and reconnect that. Number two, recognize that you're an expert at something. You might be an expert at feeling nothing. That might be your expertise, but you're an expert at something. You're an expert at turning something positive into something negative. Whatever, you are an expert. This is something that you are good at. And that you can kind of grab onto that. Create gentle forward momentum. Fix something, clean something. That really does it for me. When I clean something, it's like that thing, whatever it is, gets renewed. And that kind of, like, I did that. And then what that thing that I've cleaned or restored or repaired has like a new life to it. And that's kind of a reflection of me. Find out what really excites you on an energetic level without titles or roles. Why does it excite you? I always use the analogy of a restaurant. If having a restaurant may excite you, or a taco cart, whatever, is it making the tacos or serving the tacos or taking the money or setting everything up that is what excites you? Like a chef might be excited about being a chef because he or she gets to play with different, flavors and colors and mixing those things together. But he doesn't really want to be out with all the crowd or the customers. Whereas another person goes, yeah, I love connecting with those customers and serving them and pouring their wine for them or whatever. So getting really specific about what really excites you. All right, I'm going to start moving a little bit faster. What is your theme? What's been your theme so far? Meaning your negative theme. Mine was guilt and obligation and lack of self-worth and that thing and all the insecurities. But there's something to really look at. And what has been the theme in your life? And imagine that your purpose for life, at least this little piece of it, is to enjoy life at the opposite or the antonym of that negative theme. All right, continuing on. When an impulse comes, act. When it comes to say that you've got a little bit of motivation right here in this moment that you feel like doing something, act on that. And that's something that Valerie gave me just before I got started, is that when she was feeling the apathy and the lack of motivation, that when she felt like writing something or playing the ukulele or doing something like that, she acted on it. And don't expect that to come all the time. Like, you don't need to be Energizer Bunny all the time and be everywhere. That's not really practical and it's not really authentic. So allow yourself to go, I'm going to feel into this. And when I do feel the feeling, if ever, I'm going to act on it. But when it does come, then I'll act on it. Let's see. Be cautious of believing that this break from society and thoughts around validating this is actually you. This break from society, meaning this lack of motivation and apathy. This, like I was saying before, the mind starts to validate, yeah, you should be apathetic. Yeah, you should be lazy because we're not going to do anything. And it becomes this new personality of you. And I've met people like that they have completely no masculine energy in them. And they just kind of float around and they put this spirituality thing on it. And I'm just allowing things. That's bullshit. It's not who you really are. It's a like a conditioned response. It's a coping mechanism. So it's all cool to have it happen for a little while, but after a while, when it starts to become who you are and your personality, it's time maybe to kind of look at that and see what's behind it. All right, the last part is our apathy and identification with feelings of lack of self-worth, guilt, and shame are fuel for those who would control and manipulate. Again, I'll say it again. Our apathy and identification with feelings of lack of self-worth, guilt, and shame are fuel for those who would control and manipulate. Now, instead of going into great detail, I had a recent dream about this, and there are people around us in society that are manipulators, narcissistic people, that kind of thing. But there's also, on a greater scale, there are corporations and people that have more power and control over the world, the people that enforce unjust laws and those kind of things. That kind of energy uses our own apathy and our shame and our guilt to work with control and manipulation. So just that, to me, kind of helped me motivate myself to stay out of things and habits and addictions that would cause me to be more manipulated and controlled and fall into apathy. Like, oh, I shouldn't have that extra beer. Oh, I feel so shitty. And then now I've fallen into a little bit of apathy and guilt and shame more easily to control. So that, to me, kind of helped me motivate myself to stay in a really healthy lifestyle and out of things that are detrimental to me. That's all I got. Got to get going. I love you. Thank you. Bless you. And see you next time.